Good morning, Commissioner. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Take your seats. Going to get started. Take your seats, and then we'll tell you to stand up again. Sit down and stand up.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Motion to approve the agenda. So moved, supported by Kleinfeld. Any additions or subtractions? All's in favor, please vote. Item 4 is approval of the minutes dated April 23rd, 2018. Need a motion to approve by Commissioner Sauger, supported by Commissioner Gillette. Any questions on the minutes? All those please vote. Oh, yes. Yeah, before we get too far along, a couple of commissioners are in the council, we're meeting with the council at the moment, and they'll be out here shortly. So they, Romano and Carabelli and, say again. So we're just letting you know. Public participation. Anyone from the public wish to be heard? Anyone from the public? Anyone from the public? Seeing no one, will close public participation. Item 6 is department recommendations. Department of Roads, Brian Santo. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. First one will be the contract with RS Contracting for the 2018 Special Pavement Marking Program. Basically, it's we have two separate programs. One is longitudinal marking, which is the straight edge whites and center markings. The other one is a special pavement marking, which is arrows, onlys, railroad crossings, so that's considered special markings. So this is a contract with RS to provide for that service.
Any questions on that? Need a motion to approve? Oh, good, Commissioner Gillette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Did we get a number of bids on this project, or?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, there's a limited amount of actual pavement marking contractors. There's RS, there's PK Contracting, and I think that's probably, if you look at the...
Just the two bids, it appears,
Yep.
right?
That's the ones that typically bid because they're local.
Okay.
Other contractors are farther away and typically don't bid our projects, so it's usually either between RS or PK Contracting.
Okay. Has there been any effort to try and bring in additional bids in the future, or is there some way we could expand the number of bidders?
We advertise it, and whatever companies want to bid it or choose to bid it. I mean, that's...
So how many companies are qualified to bid and are on our list that we send that are notified about the bid option?
It goes out to the state, in
Written list.
same process that we use for the state. So every contractor that wants to bid on it can bid on it.
Do you have a wild guess how many contractors are capable of doing this work that are in the state of Michigan? Is it more than 10, less than
that
10?
are probably qualified in the area, probably 3. I've been at the department probably 24 years, and I've either had RS Contracting or PK actually do pavement markings. That's the only contractors that really perform that job or that service in the area.
Okay, the area, meaning like the Tri-County area, do you think, or?
My experience just with Macomb County, so I mean, typically that's the trucks you see out on the road, whether it's Macomb, Oakland, Wayne. I mean, it's either RS or PK.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so need a motion to approve. Moved by Commissioner Sauger, supported by Commissioner Kraft. Please vote. Very good. 6B, contract Michigan Department of Transportation for mound resurfacing from 14 to 18 Mile Road.
Because this is a pretty big agenda item, and we
Well, they are aware. I told them what was going on. They can come out or they cannot come out. It's up to them. I mean, I told them. Plus, there's a speaker on the thing that they hear what's going on in the meeting room. So, I mean, I told them there's a big agenda. They wanted to come. I appreciate that, but I don't want to tell them twice.
Commissioners, this is a state contract for the construction of 14.5 to 18 on Mound. It's basically a mill and fill project. We previously had a project that was slated for 2018 from 14 and a half to 16 mile, which was a 80%, 20% split, 80% federal monies, 20% local, which would be us and the community of Sterling Heights. We did have two projects slated for the federal TIP program for 2019, which is from 15 to 16 and 16 to from 16 to 17 and 17 to 18. In order to expedite the repair of that section of roadway from 14 and a half to 18, we'll still get grant money as far as the 80% federal, but we are advanced constructing 2019 monies and projects to build them this year, which is 2018. So we've basically taken the money that we're going to be getting in projects that were already allocated for 2019, building them this year, and advanced constructing them. We've done this in the past as far as basically advancing a project to an earlier year, knowing that we're going to have that funding availability of the 80% repay the next fiscal year, which is going to be October of 2018, the end of this year. So this project is a culmination of the need to repair this section of roadway and the necessity for safety purposes to provide for this repair from 14 and a half to 18. So it's not a new project from 16 to 18. It's just advancing the construction of it from 2019 to this current year.
And we have reserves in the account to make this payment. It's not that we're borrowing against next year's money. We've got cash available now to make that. Correct?
That is correct. You know, we did have and do have the $175 million disbursement, which Macomb program got $4.48 million of additional monies this year. So we would have enough that we wouldn't have to bond or, you know, get money from other than our general fund.
We can afford it.
Yes. Keeping in mind that in October next fiscal year, which is our fiscal year October 1st beginning, the funding will get reallocated for that 80%. So we're basically fronting the money until next fiscal year for the projects from 16 to 17, 17 to 18.
I understand. And I was driving down to Quinta Road near 34 Mile Road yesterday, and I thought that road was in better shape being a dirt road than Mound was at times this year. So I appreciate the work, and I'm glad to see it getting done.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sauger?
Brian, when will this approve? When will this get started?
I would say probably the first part of, it's being advertised with a letting date of June 1st, so probably more than likely after the 4th of July holiday.
Okay.
So I believe it's a June 1st letting date, MDOT letting date.
Commissioner Myjack?
Yes, in layman's terms, Brian, what does the mill and fill mean? Can you describe what this road would be like when it's finished?
A typical mill and fill, you deal with either an existing asphalt pavement that's, or a mill and fill is a concrete pavement that's either still concrete pavement or it might have been overlaid in the past, but basically it's an asphalt surface. We mill down 3 inches typically of the roadway from edge of metal to edge of metal, so edge of road to edge of road. We will perform any concrete patch repairs on the existing concrete underneath. We'll do some joint repairs to any joints that are deteriorated. We'll replace some curb that's been damaged. And then basically we'll, out of the 3 inches that we milled out, we'll put in 3 inches of new asphalt. So it'll have new asphalt from edge of metal to edge of metal from the distance that we start and stop.
So it's going to look like M59 around the lakeside area, something like that?
The surface will.
The surface will,
You know,
okay.
that's a total remove replace. The
Gotcha.
state's doing a total removal of existing pavement lanes and then a total replacement. And that was concrete pavement previously, and they chose to replace with full depth asphalt. If you look at 19 Mile Road between Romeo Plank and Hayes, we just recently did that by Chippewa. That's a mill and fill. So it was previously concrete. We milled down 3 inches, did some concrete patch repair, curb repair, and then filled it in with 3 inches of new asphalt.
How long do you think this will last, this section, these 4 miles? Because, you know, Executive Hackle has talked about Mound Road to get that fixed up from 11 Mile Road to 20, well over a $200 million project, but that takes time, to get the money for that. So I'm wondering how long 14 to 18 Mile Road, how long will that last?
I would say a typical mill and fill, probably 7 to 10 years.
That long?
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. Okay.
Obviously, along the way, you'd have to do some preventive maintenance. After a year or two, with any mill and fill, when you mill out concrete and put down asphalt, obviously you have concrete joints that are existing on the concrete underneath the asphalt. So those will reflect through the asphalt. So you eventually see wherever there's a longitudinal or transverse joint in the concrete, that'll reflect through the asphalt in time. So we're looking at a program to do preventive maintenance it's called overband sealing. It's like a 3-inch wide black tar that we basically put over that to prevent water from infiltrating the joints. And obviously with the freeze-thaw cycle in Michigan, it prevents from that joint expanding over time.
So, because that's very optimistic, 7 to 10 years. I hope that it lasts even longer than that. What does that mean, though, for the big picture of from 11 Mile Road to 20 Mile Road, the $200 million plus project? How does that play into that? I mean, would that mean that we're going to slow that project down, delay that in any way, or once we get the money, we can start with that project?
No, the intent is not to slow that process down. Okay. And basically the $217 million estimated cost is it's 9 miles from 696 to Hall Road.
9 Mile Road.
Yes.
Okay.
So from 696, 11 mile basically to Hall Road or 20 miles.
Okay.
So that's a 9 mile stretch. That is a $217 million price estimate.
When are we looking at that potentially? Any idea? 5 years, 4 years?
We're currently
Point of
waiting.
information.
I mean, I know.
That's a Tiger Grant thing. He has no control from the federal government if he.
I'm just asking him for his opinion. That's all.
Currently, we did get some feedback from the infra committee that we did submit the application to. Last week, they had asked for a couple bits of information that we supplied back to them, which in the professional advisors' experience was a good thing as far as them asking additional questions. That means we probably made it past the initial cut, and how many it's down to, we don't know, but we're hoping to get a response back soon. I can't give a time frame. I know before it was talked about in February or March, we get a yay or nay, but their process at Federal Highway is taking them longer. Okay. But there was a request last week. We did get them back the information they requested. Took that as a good sign, and just kind of waiting on a response. But to say that we're going to slow things down by doing the mill and fill is just a necessary safety process to keep the road in functional condition. Once we get money, depending on how much they would allocate for grant money, we would definitely look at starting that process of a reconstruct, which is total removal and replacement of the structure and the storm sewer and everything associated with it.
Let me ask you a question, another one. So this project is $12.5 million. The local county and city is $2.2 million. Mm-hmm. So that's a pretty good deal, I think,
yes,
for a 4-mile stretch. I had a constituent who's an engineer to say that he said that that's not a bad idea, $12 million for 4 miles versus a reconstruct, which is a lot more. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, obviously the condition of the pavement would warrant a reconstruct. However, if the funding is not available currently, we have to do whatever we can with this type of project, the mill and fill, to keep the roadway serviceable to the motoring public. So, the idea would be to do the whole 9 miles in total reconstruct.
Right.
But until we get funding sources that are able to handle that and supply that type of project, we have to do these types of projects along the way.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair. I know that recently Executive Hackle did a press conference regarding Mound Road. Was that with respect to this, or was it with respect to the complete reconstruction that he's talking about? Do you know what I'm talking about? I thought it had to do with the state making a promise on money, but this we're talking about federal. If you're not sure, that's fine. I'm not going to put you in a position to answer something you're not sure about. Well, that's what I was trying to figure out, which one he was talking about, because I don't think, I only read in the newspaper. He's talking about the total reconstruction?
Yeah, what Commissioner Myjack was inquiring about was the total reconstruct.
No, I'm not. I'm trying to find out what Executive Hackle was talking about when he was talking about with respect to Mound Road. I think it's this, but I didn't understand it because all we got was from the newspaper, and they were talking about a commitment from the state. This seems to be a federal government commitment, not a. They're two different things.
He was talking about the grant from the state, I'm sorry. The state,
So that's not for this project. That's what I was asking.
right.
Okay, so this project being in advanced construction, so on page 2 of your contract, which is page 30 of our packet, it indicates that it is understood that authorization to undertake the performance of the work under this contract as an advanced construction project does not constitute any commitment of the department, which is the state, or federal funds for this project. That is under 1 of your page 2. So here's my question. If you go to page 9 of your contract, the future years, I believe, is what they're referring to, that there is no commitment of that money. Would that be correct?
I know that's typical language, and I'm not as well versed in advanced construct. This is actually my first advanced construct project, being director. There is money that will be allocated next fiscal year. I know they have to budget for this, and they have to allocate on the federal end.
So, and I'm going to try to help you on this. So my next question was going to be, because it does appear that there's no guarantee for this money, and that's important to know. However, it's very important to do something with Mound. So my next question was going to be, the future money, the 1401,851, well, it's a total of 2.277 million, which would be next year's money from the federal government. It's very similar to this year's money, so does that mean more likely than not, that's something that we get about that much on a yearly basis for, the problem is this is one project, but do you understand what I'm talking about? We have to put up
Not
in
really,
advance,
but-
before it ever starts, we have to put up the 1.2 million. And we're committing, what we're doing is we're committing to pay for everything that the federal government does not pay for above the highway funds for this year. We're saying we expect the funds, but if we don't get the funds, this contract specifically states we have to pay the remainder of the cost if the federal government chooses to not give us the money.
Correct. If the federal government shuts down or they don't allocate future funding for roads this next budget year, that's what that would mean. If they don't forward money for roads for this next fiscal budget year, that there's no guarantee that that money will be there if they don't supply that money.
Okay, because this is an unusual thing to do these advanced contracts. That's why I'm asking that question.
No, we've done a handful of advanced construction in the past as far as projects of this type. And we've fronted money.
And they've always come through.
Yes, I mean, the only way they would not have money for this is if they didn't allocate funding for roads and road improvements through the federal government. The program has moved forward from year to year with these federal projects, the TIP projects, and the allocation has been there. It's this if we were to wait till next year to build it, they would replenish per their budgeting this money into the federal process, and we would get 80% next year, but I guess there's no guarantee for next budget year that they're gonna fund a whole road program. I guess
Right.
that's for them to determine as far as the next budget process for the
Okay, and then my
federal
last
one.
question with respect to that is the money that we get from the federal government, is it specific to each project? So the money that we're anticipating on this project wouldn't be money that would be being taken away from other projects in Macomb County? Or do we get a set dollar amount from the federal government every year to do whatever projects we're gonna do?
For the federal funds, they're obligated to specific roadway projects, so
Okay.
this would not take away from any other road
Okay.
funding.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
And actually, the federal money is allocated to MDOT. MDOT makes the decisions where to allocate it down to us. It's not directly from federal government to us.
We have a
That's
federal
the
aid
entire-
committee
that's the
for
entire- yeah.
the communities that get together and determine, locations that federal monies would be allocated to. So there's a committee that does that, roads included with many other communities, to determine whatever pot of money we get for federal funds, what projects would qualify and what would move forward for the TIP funding.
It's a good place to be.
If you
poor-
could
poor dirt
let
cave
us
like
know
mine.
if we don't get it, though, and it would be a year from now, but if we don't get the funds for this project that we've committed to, I think we need to know it for advanced projects in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I just know from previous knowledge of these projects happening and dealing with this, I don't see an issue with federal funds being available next budget year.
Thank you. I see no other speakers. Need a motion to approve. Motion by Myjack, supported by Commissioner Leonetti. Please vote. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you very much. That concludes your time at the board.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Did you have any questions?
Excuse me, Brian, did we happen to mention we got $1 million, that Commissioner Miller's getting us $1 million grant money that we took away from Oakland County? We didn't take that away from Oakland County. We were fortunate enough to have that money sent to Macomb County. Did you happen to mention that, or did you?
I know that's for improvements for the drain, correct, that we talked about in the drain board meeting this morning, where she got funds allocated for improvements to the Sterling Relief Drain.
In the amount of $1 million.
$1 million that I guess we're in the running for as far as Oakland versus what we had ultimately acquired for our Public Works Department.
Thank you,
So-
Mr. Santo.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Item number 7 is correspondence. We've got several correspondence, A through file. All right. Commissioner Smith, Chair Smith?
Crystal, is letter C, the one we asked for Brian to come and present on the, so just so everybody knows, 7C was a request we made to the executive's office to ask Brian to come and give us the presentation that he gave at that big event that we heard about on the news. And the response was, that was open to everybody. He already gave it once. If you have any questions on it in specific, you can ask him. And I think it's available on the website or something to watch. So he won't get to do that here, but if you want to watch it and you have any questions on it, you can look on the website and then ask Brian at a subsequent meeting.
Thank you. Commissioner Gillette?
I don't know if the motion was made to advance all the 3 items on the agenda, but I'm fairly clear on what A is. I'm clear on what C is. I'm not 100% sure on what B is. Does the application for an industrial development district have anything to do with us abating county taxes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? This motion been made by Sauger, supported by Toko, to forward these, to approve these. What was the? Oh, I haven't, okay. Anyone want to support Andre? All right. Very good, please vote. Very good. Thank you. Any new business?
Sorry.
No problem.
Just to follow
Chairman?
up on what I just said, apparently that video's not available on the website. And
Surprise.
and we've asked John Switcliffe for it with no response. I don't know how long ago we asked, but I'm just saying we haven't had a response to ask if we could get a copy of it for us to watch. So that's where we're at right now. I'm sure all
Okay.
interested.
Thank you for that information. Any other new business? Yes, Commissioner.
There's a resolution that'll be coming up. Veronica approved it for tomorrow to go on the agenda. It's about the puppy mills we had passed in 2015. A resolution about local control, and now there's something going through the state trying to take that local control away from us. So I asked Crystal, we put together a resolution to try and maintain our control within local municipalities. So just if you want to read it over, if you
Very
have
good.
any questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucido. Any other new business? May 10.
Who do you think you are, Mr. Smith?
Oh, I do have new business.
Please, go ahead, yes.
We don't have an awful lot on finance or full board. Unless we have any major objections, I'd like to move Thursday's full board meeting to after Wednesday's finance meeting. Anybody have an issue with that? Of not coming on Thursday?
Eliminate Thursday, have two on Wednesday.
Correct. We'll just need a little time in between on some things, but I think it's pretty, some of the bigger items have been moved to next month, so we have a little more time to talk about them. One of them is the revolving tax, the revolving tax delinquent fund. I don't know which order they say it, and the 20 million request. We had some questions. I talked with Scott and Pete about it. I just got done talking with Frank Cretia about it. I was too fast to ram through. Now, I don't see any issue with the whole thing in general, but I think the language needs to be tweaked just a little bit to make sure that, it's saying that all other procedures and policies and such need to be followed once that money is appropriated. And also, there was that request for the capital money that came in that we asked them to pull. We're having a meeting on it later this week. They put in, the finance department put in for the whole 8.7 million based on some projects that they said they're going to do, and kind of the same way they were trying to do it before. So we're gonna have a little discussion on that, and that'll all probably come back next month. So in case you
Good.
saw it
Slow it
on
down.
and out, but we're gonna slow it down a little bit.
Very good, thank you. Good job, Mr. Chairman. Any other new business? We'll close new business. That's okay. Public participation, anyone from the public wish to be heard? I have to call it 3 times to follow the board rules. Anyone else from the public wish to be heard? Anyone else from the public wish to be heard? Seeing none? Again? All right, motion been made by Dujay, supported by Gillette. All those, please vote. Thank you very much.
Is that a board